driveway. I didn't hang out, where stage you've ever seen, you know?
So the next thing is some snow.
Because I really wanted to do this. And I wanted to do it.
Some of that is still there.
But this is, yeah.
We got a false we got all kinds of alarms. And yet that fire department company that is not the alarms. It turned out to be nothing. So
We got it staggered.
welcome to the smoke slash carbon monoxide. You don't know what tree you're yes, yeah. Yeah, it's not bad. I've gone up today, so we'll drop off.
No, I think
So,
I'm ready.
yeah, there's really, the closest skate is about 45 minutes.
Good morning, and happy first day of spring. Yeah, made it through another winter. I'm AJ Heitkamp from the Pledge Drive team, and I'm happy to announce that we've now received $122,200 in pledges. So a big thank you to all of you who have already submitted your pledge. But we still have a long way to go to reach our goal of $385,000. So if you haven't had a chance to submit your pledge yet, we ask that you please submit it by Commitment Sunday, which is next week. So you only have 1 week left to get your pledge in. We've emailed the pledge packet to everyone, and you can also find all of our information on the church's website. Click on the Donate button on the top right of the homepage, and then select Annual Pledge Drive. And after you've submitted your information, please be sure to click on the Submit button at the end of the form. Now, it appears that there may have been a hiccup with our Pledge Drive app. The church switched to a new software vendor recently, and the system was down for an extended period last week. And we know of at least one person who submitted their pledge, but it didn't go through. So if you didn't receive a confirmation email after you submitted your pledge, there's a chance we didn't receive yours either. Another way to tell if we didn't receive your pledge is if you keep getting our email reminders. We're going to send out another one later this week. So if you're still on your list, if you're still on our list, that means your pledge didn't go through. So if that's the case, please submit it again. I promise we won't ask you to pay twice. And now I'd like to turn things over to Robin Matsky. She's going to share with us the things that make UUCR so special to her and why she makes a pledge every year. Thanks, Robin.
Hi, everyone. I'm Robin Matsky. I have been a member of UUCR for 11 years and attending for a little longer still. Currently, I am the clerk of UUCR, and I serve on the tech and the reopening teams. So, it has been a couple of years. Oh my gosh. The pandemic stressed us all in ways that had us turn our focus inward to keeping ourselves and our families safe, healthy, even alive, to keeping our heads above water. It is understandable that our church community couldn't really gather around our proverbial flame like we had in the past. We still found ways to connect at a distance, though, aside from our virtual Sunday services. Some of the chalice circles continued to meet. We met in small group pods. Shout out to my pod and how talking with Christine and Wanda really helped me out. Certain church groups also met regularly. I'm looking at you, governing board. The staff found different ways to connect with adults and youth online. The flame was tended, but not quite as strongly as it should have been. Then, as my daughters like to say, let's be honest. Reverend Hank's resignation was another storm for our community. And it was a hard one to weather. Our flame was still burning, but it was tended by a community that was just feeling buffeted. 2 years on, though, it feels like we've rounded a corner. Our church is open to anyone who would like to attend in person, and we have new folks showing up every week. We have a transitional ministry associate, and we will have an interim minister next year. Our choir is singing regularly at our services. RE classes for children and youth are meeting here on campus. Our flame is burning stronger and our future is looking brighter. But our flame still needs more support. It needs your support. We need folks to usher, to host coffee hour, and as a personal aside, to help run tech to stream our services for our online community. And to give financially to keep our staff paid and our church running. Because regardless of what the world brings, this is our community. That is what our church is. And as Ron Cavicchio said recently, we are the church and we always will be. We are the keepers of its flame. Join me and make your pledge today.
Thank you so much, AJ and Robin, and good morning to you all. I'm Deb Weiner, your Transitional Ministry Associate. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I have these opening words to share with you from Linda Susan Ulrich. Open up the doors. Push on looming wooden arches embroidered with ironwork. Brace shoulders against the weight of history unmoved. Slough off the musty smell of unused joy and stored up sorrow. Knock rust off the hinges if you have to. And let your breath precede you inside. Open the doors more. Make room for a shaft of sunlight to cross the threshold. Give the dust motes something to dance about. Peek through a single slice of possibility and name even the half-hidden truths you see. Open the doors wider still. Pour yourself through the gap. Strut or sneak or sidle as suits you best. Cleanse whatever scrapes catch your skin and bind up the wounds that keep you from entering whole. Open the doors as far as they will go. Draw on the strength of the stones beneath you. Ground yourself in a firm sense of who you are. Stand as a beacon welcoming the next seeker and shine far beyond the lintel and sill. Open all that you are. Heighten and deepen your connections to the world around you. Broaden your definition of neighbor. Grow into the largest target for grace that you can muster. And pray to become a gateway for even greater love and compassion. Open up the doors, my friends, lest we keep the stranger out and condemn ourselves to prisons of our own making. I invite Charlene up so that we may light our chalice and share our children's affirmation. The words are printed in your order of service.
In the light of truth, the warmth of community, the fire of commitment, we gather this day. May the flame we now kindle be to us a symbol of the holiness we seek. We are Unitarian Universalists, Church of the open mind, the loving hearts, and helping hands.
Everyone, it's so good to see you here. And you sat yourselves this morning. You did an extremely good job. You're still all, you're like the picnic blankets at the beach. You're all spaced out beautifully. We're going to sing this morning. Our opening hymn is 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. Please rise as you are willing and able and in body and spirit. And we're going to sing it through 3 times. Come, come, whoever you are, wonder, worshiper, lover of believing, ours is no caravan.
I have a story to share with you this morning, and one of the things that we are talking about today is the way that we make connections to one another, the way that we support one another. And this story is about that. It is We Are the Shepherds by Erica A. Hewitt. Now, you may know that Jesus was a teacher long ago of love and compassion. And when Jesus spoke to his followers, it was often about how to share more, love more, and forgive more. Jesus also talked a lot about the great unfolding mystery named love. He called it God, the way many other people do. Sometimes Jesus' followers needed help to understand his teachings, so he told stories to help them understand, and we call those parables. This is one of the parables that Jesus told his followers, and it's about a shepherd. A shepherd, as you know, is someone who cares for sheep, who makes sure that their bellies are full and that they are safe from predators, because a lot of critters would hurt those sheep if they could. Now, in the days when Jesus told this story, a shepherd wouldn't have had a fancy pen or a corral for their sheep. There were no fences to create a big space for the flock, and instead the shepherd would have had to take their sheep out into the hills to fill their bellies. Now, in this parable, the shepherd didn't have just 1 or 4 or 10 sheep. She had 100 sheep. Can you imagine how loud and smelly this sanctuary would be with 100 sheep running around in it? Not hospitality as we want to know it. Well, at the beginning of each day, the shepherd would take those 100 sheep out to the hills of green grass and counted them to make sure that they were all there. And then at the end of the day, she brought them home again, counting to make sure that all 100 were there. The shepherd came home one night and counted the sheep and saw only 99 instead of 100. She counted again to make sure, and then again. And even though it was cold and dark, and there were critters in the hills that might hurt the shepherd too, she left the 99 sheep who were safe at home and went out to find the lost sheep who was in danger. Now, when Jesus told this parable to his followers, he was trying to tell them 2 things. First, that the great unfolding mystery that we call love is present, and that we need to hold that and go to those who are left behind or in danger and share that love with them. And second, that we understand ourselves to be part of the great unfolding mystery called love. Most of us who are Unitarian Universalist want to be like that great unfolding mystery. We want to be love's partner and helper. And that means that we are the shepherds. When everyone else is safe, we're called to notice the few who are in danger and to go out into the cold and dark to be with them. Love doesn't rest and wait. Love, in the form of the shepherd, leaves comfort behind to be a helper. And that is my story for this morning. I'd like now to invite us in our thoughts to hold the people of Ukraine as we light a blue candle and then a yellow one to spark our community and the wider world. There is much going on in this time, here in this congregation, in the communities that surround us, and in the world around us. but here we are, a welcoming and loving congregation, gathered to support one another in care and in that spirit of love. May these candles embody all that we bring to this blessed community. Well, friends, we all know that 2 years ago, a little more, our world changed. And it is important that we mark this occasion with memory and hope, and indeed with the spirit of love. And so we have a litany of despair and hope that Charlene and I will lead. And you have a role in this. And your role is to respond to each phrase with the words, "Bring me home." Let's try that. Bring me home. I think you've got it. And so we begin. When we have wandered through the desert, through the barren lands of loss, afraid, alone, and searching for salvation, bring me home.
When I have been on hallowed ground, found support in places unexpected, in the arms of those beloved and revered, living within the fire of loss, bring me home.
When I have retreated from the pain, believing that I was not enough, that my limitations were too big and my courage too small, bring me home.
When I have faced the suffering of my people who are all people, and spent my time tending the flocks, endangered and in pain, bring me home.
When I lift my voice and cry out in pain and newfound strength that I am here and will survive, finding miracles amidst the plagues, bring me home.
When I have wandered in the wilderness for months, leading to years, aching with loss and yearning for your embrace, bring me home.
When I glimpse the land of promise and know that it is real, both milk and honey, not for me to taste, but holding true promise for all generations, then, beloved ones, bring me home. Amen. And now, my friends, I invite you forward to either candle station to light a candle of joy, celebration, pain, loss, or whatever you are holding as our musicians share. Friends, I invite you into the spirit of prayer and meditation as we reflect on these words written by the great poet David White. This is called What to Remember When Waking. In that first hardly noticed moment in which you wake, coming back to this life from the other more secret, movable, and frighteningly honest world where everything began, there is a small opening into the new day which closes the moment you begin your plans. What you can plan is too small for you to live. What you can live wholeheartedly will make plans enough for the vitality hidden in your sleep. To be human is to become visible while carrying what is hidden as a gift to others. To remember the other world in this world is to live in your true inheritance. You are not a troubled guest on this earth. You are not an accident amidst other accidents. You were invited from another and greater night than the one from which you have just emerged. Now, looking through the slanting light of the morning window toward the mountain presence of everything that can be, what urgency calls you to your one love? What shape waits in the seed of you to grow and spread its branches against a future sky? Is it waiting in the fertile sea? In the trees beyond the house? In the life you can imagine for yourself? In the open and lovely white page on the writing desk?
Return to the home of your soul.
morning again. Deb's asked me to do this reading from the Psalm of the Wintered Soul by Reverend Cynthia Fredo, who is a UU minister who served several communities here in Massachusetts, notably the community of Westboro for 16 years. To the weaver of molecules, the spinners of stars, the impulse that gives birth to the universe, to the earth, to me, in the deepest, darkest night of my wintered soul, I wrap myself in the blanket of my sadness and grief, pain and suffering, doubts and concerns, fears and questions. And I look out from my wondering eyes towards the light that dares to penetrate the layers of my blindness that surround me. Each luminescent ray of love and hope and possibility is that catalyst that I need to transform my thoughts and emotions into fuel for the inner fire that will dispel the darkness of the night, which will help me to see more clearly the embers of love and hope and possibility that dwell within me. I long to be filled with renewed energy and strength to thrust new life into the wings of my rebirth, the fragile fragments of my life, the ingredients in the alchemist's hand, creating a new energetic substance to course through my veins. So to the weaver of molecules, the spinner of stars, the impulse that gives birth to the universe, to the earth, to me, in the deepest, darkest night of my wintered soul, I shall look through the window of my expectant eyes towards the source of my being, waiting as I do for your alchemist's hand to create within me the change that is necessary for the season of my rebirth. I was never meant to remain in the confines of darkness. I was created to dwell in the infinite light. Spring will come again, this I know. And I will be ready for emergence and unfolding that I may soar even higher into my own becoming, into the light of my own transcendence, reawakened, renewed, reborn. And she closes with Amen and blessed be.
On March 12th, 2020, I was in the UU congregation I was serving. I was urging my colleagues that we needed to be ready for a long-term crisis, including gathering food in the freezer to deliver to the doors of people who became ill with COVID-19, figuring out ways to continue to provide pastoral care, and oh yeah, figuring out how we were going to deliver worship services the following Sunday on Zoom. A couple of days later, I left the church, taking with me a few files, notebooks, and some other items I thought I might need, and prepared to move church to my home. I figured we'd be gone from the building for a couple of weeks, maybe, surely not more. That week, I made the first of many PowerPoint slideshows to provide the connections between elements of worship, prepared videos of music with music director, and got ready to make church happen from my dining room table. It worked pretty well, all things considered. My recollection is that there were a whole lot of people logged on, enough that we almost immediately realized that we needed to upgrade our Zoom accounts to make sure that everyone who wanted to join could. People joined from Florida, from Transylvania, from Illinois. They found us. We just shook our heads, not sure how we were doing it, and kept going. A couple of months later, we were still at it, of course. There was a song that hit YouTube and circulated quickly through some UU circles by two musicians called the Bangsons. It was called the Keep Going song. This is the keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going on song. They shared in music what their lives were like, and we all started trying to figure out new ways to connect with each other. Every religious leader I know was doing stuff we were never taught to do and just making it up, but really doing pretty well. And as you all know, because you were doing it too, we just kept on. We went through different phases. Remember baking your mail and the newspaper? I did that. Remember wiping down everything with antiseptic wipes? I did that. That run on toilet paper, for heaven's sake, I did not do that. But I had friends who did that. What did we know? We homeschooled our kids. We did everything possible to keep them safe from the invisible threat. We tried to figure out how to have fun online. Had Easter, Passover, then Thanksgiving, then Christmas online. I myself made fondue for Thanksgiving and burned it because I was online for 5 hours talking to people, which was good. The fondue, not so much. We were alone, but trying like crazy to be together somehow. And then the vaccines came. Today, the World Health Organization has not yet declared an end to the pandemic. And of course, as we know, there is this variant out there that everybody's watching. The effort to vaccinate people continues. Of course, our youngest children still are not immunized, and they, along with those who are immune compromised or in fragile health, remain at risk. And yet, the infection rates continue to fall. The mask mandates in this state and others are being lifted. In my own life, I decided it was okay to go back to Pilates class, and though I definitely wear my KN95 mask in crowds, it's also true that we're starting to reconnect. Because we tend to be creatures of habit, adults and kids like familiarity and routine much of the time, we now are at another turning point. Just as we had to learn to isolate, we now have to learn to reconnect. And for those of us who not only serve, but value religious community, that means that we need to explore the ways in which we can, once again, re-engage with one another, not just on Zoom, but in person. Which brings me to the words that are at the top of the order of service today. Reverend Joe Barth was a revered professor at Starr King School for the Ministry, one of 2 Unitarian Universalist seminaries in California. Barth, who was by all accounts a cranky but brilliant professor, wanted his students to understand what the key rule was in churches, that when you enter the church, you don't close the door behind you, thereby excluding others from coming in. I chose that quote because I recognize that in this time, when 2 years after we first locked down, we still find ourselves in a pandemic, the doors have frequently been literally or figuratively closed. And now we truly are slowly, tentatively struggling to reopen them. It's tricky business. I suspect you'll agree. If anyone had told us that we would still be in this process 2 years later, would we have believed them? Probably not. I have expressed gratitude for my own ignorance because I don't think I would have been able to get through this time in the relatively intact state I'm in had I known it would endure so long. And so now, with COVID infection numbers continuing to decline and mask mandates ending, we wonder, is it time to go back to normal? And what is that anyway? We are desperate for connection to one another. We yearn not only for hugs, but for coffee dates, play dates, trips to places where other people go, feeling like to venture out won't put ourselves at risk. And to do so calls us to learn more, to experiment more. We are creatures of habit, and just as we had to teach ourselves to lock down, isolate, order from Instacart or Amazon, or rely on the generosity of neighbors to deliver items to our doorstep, we now have to learn and relearn what it means to live in this time, this new normal. In this time, so many of us lost so much. Our connection to the rites of passage we value, the people we long to touch and hug, the freedom of our children to play together, the dinners at each other's homes, the travel, the elements we had assumed were just a given. We were broken. That which we held most dear was torn. How do we find our way home now?
Though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, 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 though you've broken your vows 1,000 times.
When she was first elected to the presidency of the Unitarian Universalist Association more than 4 years ago, the Reverend Susan Frederick Gray proclaimed to us that this is no time for a casual faith. She said, "As Unitarian Universalists, we are first and foremost religious communities that practice love as our foundation. We are living in times of heartbreak, violence, and pain, and in this time we need communities that remind us of our humanity." And reflecting on the words of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Frederick Gray suggested that it would take powerful, unconditional, overflowing goodwill for all people, a universal love for humanity to make this so. Frederick Gray's words were prescient. It was as though she anticipated not only COVID, but the sacrifices that would be made by Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and so many others. And now, we add to it this war of aggression and oppression brought on the Ukrainian people that has the world on edge. Indeed, it is no time for a casual faith. We are called in this time of promise and challenge to return again, to take the tentative, delicate first steps, like those of a toddler learning to walk, to once again discover what our religious communities, our towns, our friends look like. We are called to this time and to this place to renew our faith. We are being called home, my friends. Those who have always been here and those who have arrived new at our doors, yearning for that feeling of embrace that says, you belong here. We are being called into community even as we rebuild it. Through the sadness, the disappointments, the losses, and the separation, we dig for resilience so that we may return again. In this time of nascent spring, one day warm, the next day cool, one day sunny, the next day rainy, we seek a new perspective and the enduring warmth of spiritual community where we know we will be welcome so that we may be embraced. The Reverend Ed Lynn called us into the spirit of renewal, and I invite you to rest a moment in this place and draw energy from it. Rest your feet, your hands. Close your eyes if you wish. Take a breath in. Let it out slowly. Pause to reflect on these words. I breathe in faith and exhale hopelessness. I breathe in gratitude and exhale indifference. I breathe in beauty and exhale insensitivity. I breathe in joy and exhale sadness. I breathe in kindness and exhale harshness. I breathe in forgiveness and exhale resentment. I breathe in love and exhale isolation.
Though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, 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 though you've broken your vows 1,000 times.
This place, this congregation, these people, whether sitting next to you in a pew or next to you on a video screen, these are your people and mine. You are the blessed souls who are building and rebuilding this community, and together we will do this carefully, thoughtfully, caringly. The Persian poet Rumi's words lift us. Ours is not a caravan of despair. Come, even if you have broken your vow 100 times. We are imperfect, sometimes broken, deeply caring people. Your act of being here today is an act of faith and affirmation. We have arrived. We have returned again. We endure. 2 years and counting, we are here. We see you. We celebrate your gifts. We are blessed by your presence, and through it, you enrich us all. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again. Come. As the composer Elizabeth Alexander recently wrote, everyone I know who has conflicted feelings about, well, everything speaks to us. As much as we wish we could celebrate an all-inclusive, in-person, coming back together bash, instead, we're doing the same thing we do most of the time. Dancing with imperfection and ambiguity, erring because we are human, and forgiving because it's too painful to do anything else. In this fragile time of reconnecting, rebuilding, reimagining, let us renew our faith again and again. Breathe deep. welcome the old friend and the stranger as well. Come yet again, come.
This congregation exists and thrives through the gifts of those who call this place their spiritual home. At this time in our service, we invite you to support the life and ministry of this congregation. You may make a gift online or send in your check. We thank you for your gifts of support to UUCR and Alternatives for Community and Environment.
Our offertory is a very special piece written by a good friend of Deb's and mine, Jason Shelton. He wrote this Primavera, which means spring, accompanied by the words of Reverend Marta Valentin. And the word Primavera is the word for spring in Spanish and in Italian. Please enjoy this very special piece.
In the soft earth beneath our dry feet, the earth she moves and moans anew. And we are called to plant our seedlings with sacred deeds of deepening hues. Across the blue sky above our heads, the sun's warm rays come right to us. The wind lifts spirits from our kingdom. Our love song reaches to newfound heights.
Primavera, la primavera, we give thanks for your living vow. In this season of new beginnings, la primavera calls to us now.
The lilied springtime keeps coming forth, rebirthing us from dark places. With rain and misting, they grow taller, and we grow deeper in good graces. As we emerge as siblings of faith, the spring tells us to show we care for one another and our mother, and let it be our solemn prayer.
Good morning. I'm Melissa Martin, your Member Services and Volunteer Coordinator and your Interim Congregational Administrator. My pronouns are she and her. Our congregational life is full, and we have a few highlights to share today. Please take a look at the church newsletter to learn more about how to order your Easter flowers before the March 31st deadline and to find links for our pledge drive resources. Additional details for this week's programming can also be found there, as well as daily offerings this week. Monday, there's a midday opportunity to attend online conversations with Katie, and the evening Buddhist meditation group can be attended either online or in person. On Tuesday, join us for our next conversation circle hosted by the Strategic Planning Committee and the Committee on Ministry with an offering at 6 p.m. Registration instructions are in the newsletter, and we hope that you'll consider participating to share your hopes and dreams for the future of UUCR. You can also drop in that evening for our Social Crafty Fun Zoom between 7 and 9 p.m. Wednesday, this beautiful space is open for evening sanctuary, offering quiet time for candles and reflection from 5 to 7 p.m., with our pastoral care team leading conversation and fellowship hall from 6 to 7. This Thursday, UUCR young adults and friends ages 18 to 24 will gather online for check-in and guided reflection. This staff-led offering is open to young adults seeking connection, informed by shared Unitarian Universalist values. On Friday, you can join Katie in person for coffee and conversation at Cafe Nero. And Saturday morning features another conversation circle opportunity. Next Sunday is a service that's going to be one of those services you'll hear about later, and that you'll be glad that you were part of it. Join us in person if you're able for a special service for you, the keepers of the flame. There will be stories and singing, rituals and takeaways, and some celebrating too. So we hope to see you. For today, we warmly invite those of you joining us online to come to our Zoom social hour immediately after service. You're also invited to stay on for the 11:30 small group ministry staff-led discussion. Today, Deb will be talking about renewing faith. We want to thank our ushers, Mary and Dakota, who have been here greeting folks every single week for the last few weeks as we've gotten reintegrated. They've been an enormous help. And if you want to know how you can help usher or support our in-person social hour, please reach out to me. Those who are here with us in the sanctuary, we hope you'll stay with us to join us outside for our social hour immediately after service. And we thank you all for being a vital part of our congregational life.
So we'll close our service with the hymn in your teal hymnal, 1046. It's a popular one, Shall We Gather at the River? As we gather here online and here in the sanctuary, please rise in body or spirit, and let's sing.
extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts. Beloveds, we go on our way, lifted by these words. Life is short, and we have little time to gladden the hearts of those who travel with us. So let us be swift to love and hasten to be kind. Amen, and blessed be.